On the drive back from an enormous Easter family gathering in Charleston, when I was just 16, I was involved in a devastating accident on I-26. The doctor informed me that I needed immediate emergency surgery, within the hour, or I wouldn't survive. My mother and my little sister were enjoying an afternoon at an upscale spa. When the hospital patched her through on speakerphone, my mother's precise words cut like shards of glass. If she doesn't pull through, just let me know later. We're in the middle of a treatment, and I'm not signing anything right now. My name is Serenity Carver, and I'm 21 now. 18 days later, when I finally fluttered my eyes open, the chart at the foot of my bed had been discreetly altered. My mother was no longer listed as my legal guardian. Another name occupied that space instead, and that new guardian was, if you've ever witnessed the people who were supposed to cherish you the most turn their backs the instant you needed them, drop the words. I've seen it echoed in the comments, so I know I'm not alone. Hit that subscribe button if you're eager to know exactly who stepped into the void when my own mother walked away, because the story only spirals further into madness from here. Let me rewind to the beginning, to how everything unraveled. I grew up in a sprawling white house on James Island, a stone's throw from Charleston. My dad succumbed to leukemia when I was 6. One week, he was teaching me to ride my bike in the driveway, his hands steadying the wobbly frame. The next, he was gone. A gaping hole ripped into our lives. After the funeral, the only person who consistently showed up every single weekend was my mother's father, Clarence Brooks. Everyone in the county recognized him as the former police chief who never really retired. He simply traded his badge for a fishing rod and the gentle sway of a porch swing. He'd rumble up in his ancient Ford pickup, bringing me shrimp and grits from his favorite haunt on Shem Creek, the aroma filling the cab. He'd let me sit in the front seat, regaling me with tales of chasing bootleggers down dusty back roads, his eyes twinkling with mischievous delight. To me, he wasn't just Grandpa Clarence. He was simply Grandpa, the one adult who never faltered, never canceled, a steadfast lighthouse in a sea of grief. My mother, Harmony Carver, mourned for about a year, a shadow clinging to her every move. Then, she met Colin Reed at some extravagant charity gala downtown. Colin owned half the new construction on Kiowa Island and drove a sleek, black Range Rover that always exuded the intoxicating scent of new leather and ambition. 2 years later, they exchanged vows in a lavish beachfront ceremony, a blur of white linen and champagne wishes that I barely registered. 9 months later, Haven arrived, blonde, boisterous, and instantly the undisputed center of their universe. Suddenly, the house sprouted a nursery, complete with a doting nanny, and a whole new constellation of rules. My bedroom was relegated to the back corner, above the garage, so Haven could claim the bigger room with the coveted balcony. My hard-won soccer trophies vanished into dusty boxes in the attic. My mother began introducing me as my older daughter instead of by my name, as if I were merely an extra, an afterthought in someone else's meticulously staged family photo. By the time I turned 14, I was essentially invisible, a ghost drifting through the opulent halls of my own home. Colin footed the bill for everything, but he never truly saw me unless I happened to be obstructing his path. Haven received new clothes every season, each outfit more extravagant than the last. I was handed down faded, ill-fitting uniforms from the private school I didn't even attend, a constant reminder of my outsider status. The only sanctuary, the only place I still felt genuinely wanted, was Grandpa's small, brick house in West Ashley, a 20-minute drive across the Ravenel Bridge. He kept my old bike hanging in his garage, the tires still pumped and ready for adventure. He kept the freezer perpetually stocked with popsicles in every imaginable flavor, and he never once pried, never asked why I spent every free weekend cloistered within those comforting walls. Easter weekend, when I was 16, was supposed to be different. Grandpa threw his annual cookout, a tradition as ingrained in our family history as the Spanish moss draping the ancient oak trees. 3 long tables groaned under the weight of food. Low country boil, its spicy aroma filling the air. Deviled eggs, meticulously crafted with just the right amount of paprika. Sweet tea served in mason jars, a southern elixir. Cousins I hadn't seen in years flew in from all corners of the country, their laughter echoing through the yard. There was music, children chasing fireflies, the comforting scent of charcoal mingling with the salty breeze. I wore the pale yellow sundress Grandpa had bought me the month before because he said the color mirrored the blue of my eyes. For a few fleeting hours, it almost felt like the old days, like maybe, just maybe, I still belonged somewhere, that I wasn't entirely invisible. Then, I overheard my mother on the phone by the dessert table. She was laughing, her voice light and carefree, telling someone that she and Haven had booked a mother-daughter spa day for the next morning. Facials, massages, the whole 9 yards. And after that, they were jetting off to the Bahamas for spring break. Just the 3 of them, her, Colin, and Haven. My name came up, spoken with a casual dismissiveness that sliced through me like a shard of ice. I stood there, clutching a plate of banana pudding, the sweet concoction turning cold and heavy in my hands. I told Grandpa I had a headache and needed to head home early. He tried to argue, concern etched on his weathered face, but I could sense something was amiss, a premonition lurking beneath the surface. But I just wanted out, to escape the suffocating realization that I was, once again, on the outside looking in. He reluctantly handed me the keys to the 1998 Jeep Wrangler he'd helped me buy with my hard-earned summer lifeguard money. "Drive careful, baby girl," he cautioned, his eyes filled with unspoken worry. "Text me when you get there." I promised I would, a promise I intended to keep. It was already growing dark when I merged onto I-26 westbound. A spring squall rolled in with startling speed, the way they often do in the low country sky, transforming the landscape into an impressionist painting. The sky turned an ominous green, and rain lashed down in relentless sheets, windshield wipers working at full speed, struggling and ultimately losing the battle against the deluge. Traffic slowed to a crawl, a sea of brake lights stretching into the distance. I had the radio cranked up loud, trying to keep myself awake, the sound a comforting barrier against the encroaching darkness. Some old country song Grandpa loved filled the small space, a melody woven into the fabric of my childhood. Headlights blurred into streaks of white and red, distorting the world around me. I never saw the tractor trailer until it was too late. The driver hydroplaned, losing control in the treacherous conditions. The massive vehicle jackknifed it across 3 lanes, a metal leviathan careening out of control. It slammed into the driver's side of my Jeep with a deafening roar, doing at least 60 miles per hour. Metal screamed, a tortured symphony of destruction. Glass exploded inward, showering me in a hail of glittering shards. The world flipped twice, a disorienting kaleidoscope of light and darkness. The roof caving in before it finally slid to a mangled stop, upside down against the median. I remember the seatbelt cutting into my shoulder, a sharp, searing pain, the coppery taste of blood filling my mouth. The sudden, eerie silence after the cataclysmic crash. A void where moments before there had been only chaos. And then nothing at all. Somewhere far away, sirens began their mournful wail, a desperate plea cutting through the storm, screaming toward me. The emergency room at MUSC was pure chaos, a battlefield of flashing lights and frantic activity. Doctors shouted codes, their voices strained with urgency. Monitors screamed, a cacophony of electronic warnings. Someone kept yelling for more O-negative blood. They wheeled me straight into Trauma Bay 1, a sterile chamber of life and death. My clothes were cut off in seconds, the fabric falling away like discarded skin. Needles plunged into both arms, lines snaking in and out of my body. Tubes were forced down my throat, choking me, stealing my breath. A surgeon in blood-spattered scrubs leaned over me, his face grim and determined. My pelvis was shattered, my spleen ruptured. I was bleeding internally, and there was swelling inside my skull. He said, his words clipped and urgent. I had less than an hour before things went irreversible. They needed parental consent to take me to the OR right now. A nurse with kind eyes, her face etched with concern, held my phone, scrolled through the contacts, and hit FaceTime. The call connected on the 3rd ring. I heard the soothing strains of spa music and the low hum of massage chairs, a world away from the carnage surrounding me. My mother's face appeared on the screen, a sheet mask still clinging to her skin, cucumber slices perched precariously over her eyes. Haven was sprawled on the table next to her, earbuds jammed in, scrolling through TikTok, oblivious to the unfolding drama. Mrs. Reed, this is Nurse Alvarez at MUSC Trauma, the nurse said, her voice calm but firm, angling the camera so Harmony could see my face, covered in blood, the ventilator tube protruding from my mouth. Your daughter has been in a severe accident. She has life-threatening injuries and requires immediate surgery. We need verbal consent now, or she may not survive the next hour. Harmony peeled one cucumber slice off her eye and squinted at the screen, her expression more annoyed than concerned. Haven pulled an earbud out and leaned over to look, her initial curiosity quickly fading into boredom. The doctor stepped in, his voice leaving no room for argument. Ma'am, we're looking at multiple fractures, internal bleeding, possible brain swelling. We have to open her up immediately. Harmony sighed, a dramatic exhalation that conveyed utter exasperation, as if someone had just asked her to move her car from a prime parking spot. If she doesn't make it, just call me when it's over, she said, her voice flat and devoid of emotion. We're in the middle of a treatment, and I'm not driving all the way downtown to sign papers. Haven let out a short, sharp laugh, a cruel and dismissive sound. She covered her mouth with her hand, feigning remorse, then snapped a screenshot of my battered face on the gurney, her eyes gleaming with a disturbing delight. Later, I would learn that the caption she sent to her group chat was, "Finally, some peace." The nurse's hand trembled as she held the phone, her face a mask of disbelief. A doctor behind her muttered, "Jesus Christ." Someone else whispered urgently, "Get that recorded." The nurse tried again, her voice pleading. "Ma'am, this is a legal requirement for a minor." "I heard you." Harmony cut in, her voice laced with irritation. "Call my father, Clarence Brooks. He'll handle it. We paid for a full day here." She ended the call abruptly, leaving the trauma team staring at the blank screen, their faces a mixture of shock and disgust. One resident looked ready to hurl the phone across the room, his frustration palpable. They scrambled to find the next emergency contact, Grandpa. His old Ford pickup was already tearing down the road when the hospital reached him. He'd been sitting on his porch, patiently cleaning shrimp for tomorrow's supper. The simple act a comforting ritual. The second he heard serenity and critical, he dropped everything, his heart pounding in his chest. He floored it across the Ashley River Bridge, the tires squealing in protest, still wearing his rubber boots and an apron stained with fish blood, his hands gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles. Rain hammered the windshield, blurring his vision. Lightning illuminated the sky in jagged flashes, turning the world into a strobe-lit nightmare. He made the 25-minute drive in 16, fueled by adrenaline and a primal fear. He burst through the ER doors, soaked to the bone, his old police badge, a relic from 30 years ago, still clipped to his belt out of habit, a symbol of his unwavering dedication to protect and serve. The charge nurse took one look at the retired chief, his face etched with desperation, and waved him straight through, no questions asked. He signed every consent form they shoved in front of him without reading a single line, his hand shaking so violently the pen scratched across the paper, leaving a trail of jagged ink. They let him into the bay long enough to see me, a grotesque tableau of tubes and wires, my face swollen beyond recognition. He leaned close to my ear, his breath warm against my skin, and whispered the same comforting words he used to say when I had nightmares as a little kid. "I've got you, baby girl. Grandpa's right here." Then they rushed me to surgery, whisking me away into the sterile abyss. He pulled a metal chair up to the glass wall outside the operating room and sat down, his gaze fixed on the closed doors. He didn't move for the next 9 hours, a silent sentinel guarding the fragile thread of my life. Not when the nurses offered him lukewarm coffee. Not when the waiting room emptied, the other families dispersing into the night. Not when the storm outside knocked the power out for 12 terrifying minutes, plunging the hospital into darkness until the backup generators sputtered to life. When they finally wheeled me to the ICU just before dawn, he followed the bed, his eyes never leaving my face, still holding the same cold hand that had gone limp hours earlier, his grip a testament to his unwavering devotion. The next 18 days became the longest of Grandpa's life, an eternity measured in beeping machines and whispered prayers. The ICU smelled like antiseptic and fear, a sterile environment where life hung precariously in the balance. Machines hissed and beeped in a relentless rhythm, a constant reminder of how thin the line was between existence and oblivion. Grandpa claimed the vinyl recliner beside my bed and refused to leave, transforming the sterile space into his makeshift home. Nurses tried to gently persuade him to go home the first night, their voices laced with concern. He simply showed them the faded badge still nestled in his wallet, a silent declaration of his unwavering resolve. "I'm not going anywhere," he stated, his voice firm and unwavering. After that, nobody argued. He slept in 30-minute bursts, his head tipped back, his mouth open, his boots still on, ready to spring into action at a moment's notice. When he woke, he talked to me nonstop, his voice low and soothing, so the monitors wouldn't drown him out. He told me about the night I was born, how he held me first because my mom was too exhausted to even lift her head. He retold the story of the summer I was 8, when we caught a 5-foot shark off Folly Beach Pier, how I screamed with delight until he let me reel it in myself, my small hands gripping the rod with fierce determination. He read aloud from his worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, the pages dog-eared and stained with memories, doing all the voices with a theatrical flair that always made me laugh. Some evenings, he just hummed the old hymn his own mother sang when he was little, the one that always lulled me to sleep on his couch, a comforting melody that transcended time and circumstance. Doctors came and went, their faces a mixture of optimism and concern. One morning, the neurologist announced that the swelling in my brain was finally receding. Another afternoon, the orthopedic surgeon warned that my pelvis might never heal perfectly straight, a somber prognosis. Grandpa listened intently, nodded, asked questions sharp enough to make the residents sweat, then went right back to holding my hand, his presence a constant reassurance that no matter what happened, I wasn't alone. On day 16, the numbers finally started trending in the right direction, a glimmer of hope in the long, dark tunnel. My blood pressure stabilized. The ventilator settings were gradually reduced. A nurse caught Grandpa smiling for the first time in 2 weeks, a genuine smile that reached his eyes and crinkled the corners of his weathered face. That same afternoon, while he leaned close, whispering about how the redfish were running and we'd go fishing the minute I woke up, a tall man in a navy suit appeared at the glass door. Mr. Donovan had worked cases with Grandpa 25 years ago, their careers intertwined in the pursuit of justice. They still played poker once a month, a ritual that cemented their bond. Grandpa looked up, saw the thick folder in Donovan's hand, and gave one slow, knowing nod. No words were needed, their shared history speaking volumes. Donovan left the hospital, got into his silver Lexus, and drove straight to James Island, his jaw clenched with determination. He knew the address by heart. Harmony and Haven were in the foyer, surrounded by designer luggage, their faces glowing with anticipation. 2 matching pink suitcases sat by the door, tags already attached for a 7-night Royal Caribbean cruise, leaving Charleston Harbor the next morning. Colin was upstairs on a work call, his voice booming through the house. Haven was filming herself twirling in a new sundress for Instagram, her movements fluid and practiced, oblivious to the impending storm. Harmony was double-checking passports, her mind already drifting towards white sand beaches and tropical cocktails. The doorbell rang, shattering the idyllic scene. Donovan introduced himself, his voice calm but authoritative. He handed over the thick envelope and waited, his expression unreadable, while Harmony ripped it open with manicured nails. Inside were 2 sets of papers, stark and accusatory. An emergency petition to strip parental rights for medical neglect of a minor and a civil suit filed by the hospital for extraordinary life-saving expenses plus pain and suffering, both naming Harmony Reed and, because Haven was 14 and had actively participated in the refusal, her as well. Harmony's face went white beneath the expertly applied spray tan, her features contorting in disbelief. Haven stopped recording mid-spin, her smile frozen in place. "You have 72 hours to respond," Donovan said, his voice unwavering. "After that, the judge has already agreed to an emergency hearing." Harmony started yelling about lawyers and mistakes and how dare anyone question her parenting, her voice rising to a hysterical pitch. Haven burst into dramatic tears, claiming she didn't mean anything by the texts, her sobs echoing through the house. Donovan simply turned and walked back to his car, leaving a trail of stunned silence in his wake. Inside the house, Harmony slid down the wall, the papers clutched in her trembling hands, mascara running in black rivers down her cheeks, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. Haven kept screaming that this would ruin her spring break, her self-centeredness a glaring contrast to the gravity of the situation. Colin came downstairs, took one look at the documents, and went pale, realizing the potential ramifications for his carefully cultivated image. Back at the hospital, Grandpa never mentioned the visitor, never alluded to the legal earthquake that was about to shatter their lives. He just kept holding my hand, humming that same old hymn, his presence a steadfast anchor in the swirling storm, waiting for the day my eyes would finally open. 2 days later, I opened my eyes for the first time, emerging from the fog of unconsciousness. Everything hurt, a dull, throbbing ache that permeated every cell in my body. My mouth tasted like metal and plastic, a lingering reminder of the tubes that had invaded my body. Machines still beeped, but the sounds were softer now, less frantic, a subtle indication that I was finally on the mend. The first face I saw was Grandpa's. His unshaven eyes red-rimmed but shining with an undeniable joy. His grin so wide I thought his cheeks would split. "Hey, baby girl," he whispered, his voice cracking with emotion. "Welcome back." I tried to speak, to form the words that were swirling in my brain, but nothing came out except a pathetic rasp, a feeble attempt at communication. He pressed the call button, summoning the nurses, then lifted the whiteboard at the foot of the bed, so I could read it, his hands trembling with anticipation. In black marker, big, bold letters proclaimed, "Legal Guardian, Clarence Brooks." I stared at the words until they blurred, tears welling up in my eyes. Relief washed over me in a tidal wave, a profound sense of safety and belonging that I hadn't felt in years. Tears rolled sideways into my ears, a testament to the emotional dam that had finally broken. He wiped them away with a thumb that still smelled faintly of shrimp and salt air, the scent a comforting reminder of home. Over the next few hours, between nurses checking vitals and doctors shining lights in my eyes, he told me everything, his voice measured and calm, but his eyes filled with a simmering anger. The FaceTime call, my mother's exact words, Haven's screenshot, the papers served while I lay unconscious, teetering on the brink of death. He didn't sugarcoat any of it, never had. I cried again, harder this time, the tears fueled not just by pain, but by a relief so profound it felt like drowning in reverse, a liberation from the emotional weight I had carried for so long. 3 weeks later, they finally let me go home, discharging me from the sterile confines of the hospital. Not to James Island, not to the house that had become a symbol of my isolation, but to Grandpa's little gray house on stilts in Folly Beach, a 15-minute drive south of the city. The salt air hit my lungs the second he carried me over the threshold, a revitalizing elixir that seemed to seep into my very bones. My new bedroom used to be his fishing tackle room, a space filled with the scent of salt and the ghosts of countless fishing expeditions. He'd painted the walls a pale blue, the color of the ocean on a clear day, and hung the same wind chimes we'd made together when I was 9, their gentle tinkling a soothing melody. From the window, I could see the ocean rolling in, steady and endless, a constant reminder of the rhythm of life. Physical therapy started the following Monday, a grueling process of relearning how to move, how to inhabit my own body again. I learned to sit up, then stand, then shuffle tentatively behind a walker, Grandpa spotting me like I was 2 years old again, his hand hovering protectively behind me. He cooked shrimp and grits every night because it was soft enough for my wired jaw, the familiar aroma filling the small house with warmth and comfort. We watched the sunset from the porch swing, his arm a steady presence around my shoulders, neither of us needing to fill the silence with words, our bond transcending the need for verbal communication. One afternoon, my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, its insistent vibration a jarring intrusion. The screen showed Mom. I stared at it for 10 rings, each one a hammer blow to my fragile peace. Grandpa watched me from the doorway, his expression unreadable, saying nothing, allowing me to make my own choice. I pressed decline, severing the connection, set the phone face down, and walked back to the porch, leaving the past behind. That was the only time she ever tried, a single, half-hearted attempt at reconciliation. Across town, Colin filed for divorce the same week, his actions swift and decisive. His company had just landed a massive contract with the Port Authority, a deal that would secure his financial future. The last thing he needed was headlines about child abandonment tied to his name, tainting his carefully crafted image of success. He moved out of the James Island house before the ink dried on the divorce papers, taking only his clothes and his prized golf clubs, severing all ties to the life he had so meticulously constructed. Haven lost her mind on social media for about 3 days, unleashing a torrent of anger and self-pity. Then, she went radio silent when colleges started pulling scholarship offers, her carefully curated future crumbling before her eyes. Grandpa never brought it up unless I asked, never pried, never offered unsolicited advice. When I did, he answered straight, his words honest and unwavering. "They made their choice, Ren," he'd say, his voice firm but gentle. "Now we make ours." Some nights, the pain woke me screaming, a visceral reminder of the trauma my body had endured. He'd shuffle in, wearing his old police academy sweats, his face etched with concern, sit on the edge of the bed, and hold my hand until the meds kicked in and the nightmares receded. His presence a comforting reassurance in the darkness. Other nights, I woke to the sound of him praying out loud in the living room, his voice rough and earnest, asking God to give him enough years to see me whole again. His devotion a silent testament to his unwavering love. By the time the stitches came out and the casts turned to braces, I could walk the length of the pier without stopping, my body slowly healing, my spirit gradually mending. Grandpa bought 2 rods and a bucket of shrimp, our first fishing trip a symbol of our shared healing. We sat at the end where the water turns deep green, lines cast into the water, not catching much but not caring. The simple act of being together a balm for our wounded souls. The sun burned the last of the hospital smell off my skin, replacing it with the scent of salt and freedom. I looked out at the horizon one evening, the wind whipping my hair across my face, and realized I wasn't waiting for anything anymore. No longer held captive by the hope of reconciliation. No apology, no explanation, no second chance I never wanted to give. The ocean just kept moving, steady and relentless, same as always, a constant reminder of the enduring power of nature. A couple of months later, the preliminary hearing day arrived, a day of reckoning and closure. The courthouse on Broad Street smelled like old wood and floor wax, a musty odor that spoke of history and justice. I walked in on crutches, Grandpa on one side, Donovan on the other, their presence a fortress of support. The scar on my forehead was still pink, a visible reminder of the trauma I had endured, but my head was held high, my gaze unwavering. My mother sat at the defendant's table in a navy suit, 2 sizes too big, her face gaunt and drawn, her eyes puffy and devoid of makeup, a stark contrast to the meticulously groomed woman I once knew. Haven slouched beside her in a private school blazer, her usual defiance replaced by a sullen indifference, staring at the floor, seemingly oblivious to the gravity of the situation. The judge was a woman with steel-gray hair and zero patience, her stern demeanor conveying a sense of unwavering authority. She adjusted her glasses and told the bailiff to roll the recording, her voice sharp and commanding. The FaceTime call played on the big screen, the sounds amplified, filling the courtroom with the chilling reality of that fateful night. My broken body on the gurney, a stark and disturbing image. The spa music in the background, a jarring juxtaposition of luxury and suffering. My mother's voice, clear and cold, echoing through the room. If she doesn't make it, just call me when it's over. Haven's laugh, a cruel and dismissive sound. The screenshot of my bloody face with her caption underneath, a callous act of teenage cruelty. The courtroom went dead silent, the weight of the evidence hanging heavy in the air. A juror in the back actually gasped, his face a mask of shock and disbelief. Donovan laid the phone records on the bench next, presenting irrefutable proof of Haven's actions. She had forwarded the photo to 7 different group chats within 4 minutes, her callousness documented in digital form. One message read, "One less person stealing my spring break." A chilling testament to her self-centeredness. The judge's pen stopped moving, her hand frozen mid-stroke. She looked at my mother for a long, hard moment, her eyes filled with a mixture of disdain and disbelief. "Mrs. Reed," she said, her voice like ice, each word carefully chosen. "In 23 years on this bench, I have never heard a parent speak about their child this way. While that child was fighting for her life, temporary full custody is immediately transferred to Clarence Brooks, effective today. We'll see you back here for the permanent hearing." She banged the gavel so hard the sound echoed off the marble walls, a resounding declaration of justice. 3 days later, Harmony was fired from her job at the South Carolina State Credit Union, her carefully constructed facade crumbling around her. Background checks are mandatory for anyone handling federal funds, and medical neglect of a minor is an automatic disqualifier, a damning indictment of her actions. Security escorted her out with a cardboard box, her belongings a meager collection of personal items, a sad reminder of her shattered career. Haven's full-ride academic scholarship to the College of Charleston got revoked the same week, her dreams of a bright future dissolving before her eyes. The admissions board cited conduct incompatible with the values of the institution, a public shaming that resonated throughout the community. Suddenly, the private high school that once worshipped her started whispering behind her back, her social standing plummeting. Within a month, the James Island house went into foreclosure, a final, devastating blow. Colin's name was already off the deed, his escape swift and calculated. He had signed everything over to protect his assets, leaving Harmony and Haven to face the consequences of their actions. Mother and daughter moved into a 2-bedroom apartment off Savannah Highway, the kind with peeling paint and a broken elevator, a far cry from the opulence they had once enjoyed. Haven lost her car, her freedom curtailed. Harmony took a night job stocking shelves at a grocery store to cover rent, a humbling descent into the working class. Meanwhile, I started real therapy, a long and arduous journey towards healing. Twice a week, a van picked me up for outpatient physical rehab at MUSC, a testament to the enduring damage my body had sustained. I learned how to climb stairs again, how to balance on a Bosu ball, how to trust my own legs, each small victory a triumph over adversity. Grandpa drove me every single time, waited patiently in the lobby, reading the same 3 fishing magazines until I came out sweating and shaking, his unwavering presence a constant source of strength and encouragement. On Thursdays, I saw a trauma counselor named Dr. Rivera, a compassionate woman with a gentle demeanor. We sat in a small office that smelled like lavender, a soothing scent that helped to calm my racing thoughts, and talked about nightmares, about rage, about the day I realized I never wanted to hear my mother's voice again. A difficult but necessary step towards emotional healing. Grandpa waited in the truck, windows down, country station playing low, never once complaining about the heat. His quiet support a lifeline in a sea of turmoil. Some afternoons, when the pain in my hips got too loud, I'd sit on the back deck and throw pieces of bread to the gulls, finding solace in the simple act of connection with nature. Grandpa would join me with 2 sweet teas, and we'd watch the tide go out, the ebb and flow of the ocean a metaphor for the healing process. He never tried to fix my anger, never dismissed my pain. He just let me feel it, allowing me to process the trauma in my own way, his unwavering acceptance a gift beyond measure. By the end of summer, I could ditch the crutches for a cane, a symbol of my growing strength. Then, the cane for nothing at all, a final liberation from the physical constraints that had held me captive for so long. I still walked with a slight limp, a subtle reminder of the ordeal I had endured, but the doctor said most of it would fade by my 18th birthday, a promise of a brighter future. One evening, I made it all the way to the end of Folly Pier and back without stopping, a personal triumph that marked a significant milestone in my recovery. Grandpa met me halfway, carrying a blanket and a flashlight, even though the sun hadn't set yet, his foresight a testament to his unwavering care. We sat on the sand, shoes off, letting the waves lick our toes, the cool water a soothing balm on my skin. I leaned my head on his shoulder, finding comfort in his familiar presence. "Thank you for staying," I said, my voice thick with emotion. He kissed the top of my head, his gesture filled with love and gratitude. "Nowhere else I'd rather be, baby girl," he whispered, his words a silent promise that he would always be there for me, no matter what. 7 months after the crash, the final trial day came, the culmination of a long and arduous journey. I walked into the courtroom without crutches, cane, or limp, my body a testament to the power of healing. The scar on my forehead was still pink, a visible reminder of the trauma I had endured, but my head was held high, my gaze unwavering. Grandpa sat right behind me in his Sunday suit, the one he wore to my dad's funeral, a somber garment that symbolized the cycle of loss and renewal. Harmony looked smaller than I remembered, her face gaunt and drawn, her hair pulled back tight, clutching a tissue she never used, her carefully constructed world reduced to ashes. Haven stared straight ahead, her arms crossed so hard her knuckles went white, her face a mask of sullen indifference. Donovan called me to the stand first, his voice calm and reassuring. I swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I sat down and looked the judge in the eye, my gaze unwavering. Tell the court how it felt, he said, his voice gentle but firm. Knowing your mother refused to come while you were dying. I took a breath, composing myself, finding the strength to articulate the pain that had haunted me for so long. The room waited, holding its breath, anticipating my words. It felt like the last piece of me that still believed I mattered just died on that table. I said, my voice clear and steady, devoid of emotion. I learned in one sentence that I was disposable, and the person who said it was the same woman who used to read me bedtime stories, the woman who was supposed to love me unconditionally. I told them about waking up to Grandpa's name on the guardian line, a lifeline in a sea of despair, about the single missed call I never returned, a conscious decision to sever all ties to the woman who had abandoned me, about every night I fell asleep listening to the ocean instead of wondering why I wasn't enough, finding solace in the rhythm of the waves. Harmony's lawyer tried to paint her as stressed, overwhelmed, a victim of circumstance, attempting to deflect blame and garner sympathy. He brought up her job loss, the foreclosure, the divorce, painting a picture of a woman driven to the brink by forces beyond her control. I didn't look at her once, refusing to acknowledge her presence, refusing to give her the satisfaction of seeing my pain. When he finished, the judge asked if I had anything else to say, her voice neutral but attentive. Yes, Your Honor, I answered, my voice firm and resolute. I don't want her money. I don't want her apologies. I just want this to be over. I already have a family that loves and supports me unconditionally. The judge didn't need long, her decision already made in her mind. She returned 20 minutes later, her face grim and resolute. Permanent termination of parental rights for Harmony Reed, effective immediately, she declared, her voice leaving no room for argument. Civil judgment in favor of the plaintiff and the hospital. The James Island property will be sold at auction to satisfy the lien. Mr. Clarence Brooks is granted full legal adoption. This case is closed. The gavel cracked like a starting gun, signaling the end of a long and arduous race. A race for justice, a race for healing, a race for a new beginning. Outside in the hallway, reporters shouted questions, their voices a cacophony of noise. I ignored. I gathered what little belongings remained, clutched Grandpa's weathered arm, and stepped out into the crisp October air, the sun casting long shadows behind us. 3 weeks later, the stark white house, once filled with laughter and memories, was rendered silent. The bank's padlock a cold, final period on that chapter of our lives. A beat-up moving truck lumbered to a halt outside, ready to swallow what Harmony and Haven deemed worthy of keeping, a paltry sum. Really. Boxes, overflowing with a mishmash of belongings, were crammed into an old, dented sedan. Then, we were off, heading north on I-26, toward a horizon painted with uncertainty. We were bound for a place where rent wouldn't bleed us dry, a place where no one knew the whispers of our past. I never dared to ask where. That same month, a thick envelope arrived in the mail, holding the key to my new beginning. The adoption papers. My hands trembled as I signed Serenity Brooks for the first time. The weight of the name settling on me. A promise and a responsibility. The tears flowed, heavier than the day I woke from the coma. A catharsis of grief and hope. Grandpa. His eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't quite decipher, carefully framed the certificate. He hung it above the fireplace, right next to my dad's faded service photo. A silent tribute to the man I barely remembered, and a beacon of hope for the woman I was determined to become. I began my senior year at a small alternative school, a sanctuary tucked away just 10 minutes from the salty air and endless horizon of Folly Beach. The classes were small, intimate, and the teachers possessed a rare kind of dedication, a genuine care that warmed the hollow spaces within me. Here I was Serenity, not just that girl. No one knew the story that had haunted me, unless I chose to share it. I thrived in that environment. I made the honor roll every quarter, a testament to my newfound drive. Early decision acceptance to the College of Charleston followed. A triumph. Close enough to home that I could return every night if I craved the familiar comfort of Grandpa's presence. Graduation day dawned warm and breezy, the kind of day that whispered promises of endless possibilities. I donned the pale blue cap and gown, the exact shade as the bedroom walls Grandpa had lovingly painted for me, a gentle reminder of the safe haven he had created. When my name was called, a wave of emotion washed over me. The entire senior class rose to their feet, erupting in cheers, their faces beaming with genuine affection. By then, everyone knew, or at least had an inkling, of the silent battles I had fought, and who had been my unwavering anchor through the storm. Grandpa waited at the bottom of the steps, his dress uniform immaculate, the medals gleaming under the Carolina sun. His eyes, usually crinkled with laughter, were polished with pride, shining brighter than any star. I ran to him, abandoning all pretense of composure, and threw my arms around his neck. He lifted me off the ground, just as he had when I was a little girl, as if I still weighed nothing at all. 5 years have spun by since that life-altering Easter Sunday. I'm 21 now, a diploma in psychology hanging proudly on my wall. I work as a family trauma counselor at a nonprofit organization, just across the bridge in Mount Pleasant. Every day, I sit across from teenagers who are convinced that they are unlovable, that no one will ever truly choose them. And every day I get to look them in the eye and tell them they are wrong. Because someone chose me, fiercely and unconditionally, when the people who were supposed to love me the most walked away without a backward glance. Grandpa celebrated his 77th birthday last month. He still tends the yard himself, his hands gnarled with age but still strong. He still reels in more fish than any high-priced charter boat captain on the island. His intuition honed by years of experience on the water. And he still makes the best shrimp and grits in the entire state. A culinary masterpiece passed down through generations. The house on stilts stands exactly as it always has, a weathered sentinel against the relentless sea. The wind chimes still sing their gentle song. The porch swing creaks a familiar rhythm, and the old coffee pot eternally simmers, always half full, a symbol of Grandpa's unwavering hospitality. My old room remains pale blue, a sanctuary of peace. His tackle room is still a tackle room, a chaotic collection of rods, reels, and lures, because neither of us ever bothered to change it back. We eat dinner on the deck most nights, watching the playful dolphins chase mullet in the surf, the sky ablaze with the colors of sunset. He calls me, baby girl, exactly once a day, a term of endearment that never fails to warm my heart. Usually when he hands me a glass of sweet tea, his eyes twinkling, I still call him Grandpa. Nothing else feels right. Harmony and Haven left South Carolina for good 3 years ago, vanishing into the anonymity of the world. Last I heard, they were somewhere in Georgia, renting a cramped trailer under assumed last names. I never searched for them. They never searched for me. The silence is profound, clean, and final. It's a strange kind of peace. Some people ask if I'm angry, if resentment simmers beneath the surface. I'm not. Anger is a corrosive force, a thief of joy. I decided to spend my energy on living, on building a life filled with purpose and love, instead of dwelling on the past. Some ask if I forgive them. Forgiveness isn't mine to give. It's theirs to earn, and they never tried. I'm simply done. What I do carry, what I hold close to my heart, is a gratitude so deep it still catches me off guard. A wave of emotion that threatens to overwhelm me. Gratitude for the man who slept in a hard vinyl chair for 18 agonizing nights, his face etched with worry. For the retired police chief who never missed a single therapy appointment, who listened with unwavering patience and offered gentle guidance. For the grandfather who transformed a dilapidated house into a loving home, and his heart into a safe harbor, a refuge from the storm. Family isn't defined by shared blood. Family is the person who stays, who stands by your side when your blood runs cold on an operating table. Family is the one who signs the papers, holds your hand, and never once makes you feel like a burden. If you're watching this and you're scared, if you feel lost and alone, if you don't have that person in your life, look harder. They're out there waiting to be found. Sometimes they're the grandparent you never expected to need. Sometimes they're the friend, the teacher, the neighbor who refuses to let you fall. And when you find them, hold on tight. Because real family isn't born. It's chosen, deliberately and intentionally, every single day. Especially on the days when choosing you costs them everything. That's the only truth I know for sure. And that's my story.